everyone, my name is Charlotte and welcome to our festival session on celebrating diversity. As you can see, I've got lots of people with me who are going to be helping to run the workshop. You'll meet them in a little bit, they're all going to do different sections of the workshop, but so you know who everybody is. This is Charnel, Lydia, Alex and Harsha. Now we're all going to be talking to you about diversity today. And we're going to be looking at some serious topics, topics like racism and prejudice, alongside celebrating diversity and why it is so great. Because these topics are very serious, and some people might find some of the conversations a little bit challenging, it's really great idea, and I'd really recommend that you watch this session with an adult. So if you've got a parent or a guardian at home with you, I'd really recommend watching this with them so that you have somebody to discuss your ideas with. The topics are quite emotive, and that means that sometimes that can trigger emotions. So some people might feel sad about some of the things in the session, and some people might feel a little bit worried about some of the things, and that's absolutely okay. And hopefully as we take you through the session, we're going to give you some ideas and we can think about how we can make a positive change towards things like racism and prejudice, and we can really celebrate everything that makes you unique and makes everybody unique and celebrate that. But also there's lots of things that are similar about people, and that is what makes the world great. We've got lots of differences, but we also have lots of things that combine us together, and we can celebrate that. So first of all, I'm going to hand over to Lydia, and she is going to look at the topic of Black Lives Matter and what that is. You may have heard about it on the news or read about it. You might have heard some adults having conversations about it, or they may have had conversations with you about it. And that's great if you already know what it's all about. But if not, Lydia is going to discuss what Black Lives Matter is. So let's hand over to Lydia.
Recently in the news, you may have seen images or videos of peaceful protests, demonstrations happening around the world. You may have even seen politicians making speeches about something called Black Lives Matter. But what exactly does that mean, and why is it so important? Well, in 2012, African-American teen Trayvon Martin was killed unjustly by a man named George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman was a member of Trayvon's Neighborhood Watch team. And his reasons for killing Trayvon was that because he thought he looked suspicious. Now, despite this case going to trial, George Zimmerman walked free, and this left the Black community completely heartbroken. Trayvon Martin was 17 years old. Now, fast forward to 2020, the name on everyone's lips is George Floyd. Now, George Floyd was an African-American man who was killed by law enforcement in America. And that happened within recent weeks. And that's what really sparked the Black Lives Matter movement to really get going again, even though it was founded back in 2012. And the importance of the Black Lives Matter movement is really to highlight the many forms of racism that there are in the world and what we can do as a people to stop it. Now, that might be a little bit difficult to understand all of the words that I've used, so I'm going to give a few more examples just to make it a little bit easier to understand. So imagine if you were at school and somebody kept being mean to you, kept saying really mean things to you, but you asked them to stop, but they wouldn't. How would that make you feel? Imagine if this kept happening and you kept asking them to stop and no one around you was helping you. How would you feel then? That's very much like the tragedy of George Floyd, of Trayvon Martin, of Breonna Taylor, of Ahmaud Arbery. All of these people lost their lives simply because of the colour of their skin. And that is why the Black Lives Matter movement is so important. It's important to remember that when we say Black Lives Matter, we are not saying that nobody else's lives matter. Think of it this way. If you broke your leg and you had to go to the doctor, but then a doctor said to you, all bones matter, that wouldn't really make much sense, would it? Because whilst, yes, all of your bones do matter, at that moment in time, it's your leg that needs attention because it's your leg that's in pain and that's broken. The same thing can be said about the Black Lives Matter movement. Black people are dying around the world, and this movement is here to shed light on the injustices that are happening around the world and to really pull together so that as a people, we can bring justice and work together to bring about change.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this subject, Lydia. I certainly learned a lot from that video, and I hope you did too. Like I said, if you've got any questions about this, please do speak to an adult, because it is a topic that is hard to think about, and is sad to think about. But like I said, we want to make a positive change. So we want to make sure that we are treating everybody the same, regardless of their age or their skin colour or if they have a disability or not, that we treat everybody the same. We're going to look at this in a little bit more detail now with Charnel. She is going to have a look at what prejudice and discrimination is.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to start off with then is what is prejudice and what is discrimination. Now, you might think that these two terms mean the same thing, or you might have even heard adults use them incorrectly by also thinking that they mean the same thing, but they're actually two very different words. So, I want you to think of two key points, and I want you to remember these two key points. Discrimination is an action, and prejudice is the thought. So, for example, I might not like someone because they're wearing pink shoes. And I heard a rumour that people who wear pink shoes are really horrible and nasty people. Therefore, if I see someone walking on the street and they're wearing pink shoes, I might automatically assume that they're also a really horrible and a really nasty person. That is what we call a prejudiced thought. I have made an assumption as to who this person is and their character and their personality, all because of a rumour that I have heard, and I decide that I don't like this person because they're wearing pink shoes. Discrimination, then, is actively treating this person differently because they're wearing pink shoes. So I might not tutor someone who's wearing pink shoes, or I might not let someone in my home who's wearing pink shoes, all because they're wearing pink shoes. Now, if we look at this in a real life situation, discrimination is the act of treating someone differently in a negative way because of something that they can't usually control. So their race or their sex or their disability or a culture, actively treating them differently because of this in a negative way. But either way, regardless of why someone is being discriminated against, it is always wrong, and we should actively be trying to stop this. So the question is, what do you guys do if you see someone being discriminated against, or if you yourself are being discriminated against? Well, the first thing that we always do is tell a teacher or an adult. They will try to solve the situation, or at least try to understand the situation. However, it's also really helpful to talk to the person who is committing this act of discrimination. It might be not letting someone in their game because they're a boy. So what can we do if we see someone doing that? Well, we can talk to them about it, because maybe they don't actually quite understand that what they're doing is wrong and actually quite hurtful. So if we talk to them about it, we can try and help them understand. Or if that's not working, what we could do is always invite the person being discriminated against into our game or into join our conversation. But whatever you guys do, whether it's talking to an adult, talking to the person being discriminated against, or talking to the person who is doing the discriminating, I want you guys to be actively keeping an eye out for it and actively be trying to solve it.
hope you've got lots of great ideas there. If you need a bit more time, just pause the video and you can start again when you're ready. But I hope you had lots of great ideas. I was thinking about it too, and I was thinking about talking with others, talking to adults is a really great idea because they can help you problem solve. And the other thing that it made me think was just to be kind and just always think about being kind, and the action that I'm taking or the thing that I'm saying, the thing that I'm doing, is that kind? And are the actions of people around me kind? And if they're not, could I talk to them in a kind way to explain why they might be upsetting someone with the actions that they're taking? So thank you for taking the time to reflect on that. Next, we're going to hand over to Alex, and she's going to have a look at why diversity is so great and why it's important to have a mixture of different people, and lots of people with unique skills and talent is a great thing to have.
So we're going to take a look at why living in such a diverse world is so great. And it's really important to celebrate what makes us unique and different from one another. Now, there are many things that make us unique. For example, our skills. What skills have we learned or acquired throughout our life? Is that something that we can share with other people and perhaps teach other people to do? Or our hobbies. Some people might be super interested in sporty hobbies like football or netball or basketball, and then another person might be more into creative hobbies such as art or writing, for example. Also, the way that we look sets us apart from one another. We might have different eye colours or skin colours or different hair colours and styles. Perhaps our attitudes and opinions on different things. If everyone had the same opinion on the same subject, we'd have very, very boring conversations and we'd never learn anything new. Also, the people that make up our families make us unique and different. And that's how we develop different cultures and traditions and behaviours. And it's what makes us the people that we are, because we surround ourselves with those people. There are so many things that make us unique and that make us different. And it's great that we get to share all of these different things. Something that makes me unique is that I was raised to speak 2 languages. So it's also known as being bilingual. I can speak English, which is what I'm speaking to you now, and I can also speak a language called Croatian. Hello, my name is Alexandra. Dobar dan, moje ime je Alexandra. And these are skills that I have that I can share with you that make me different from you. Now we're going to have a look at Lydia and Harsha and learn what makes them unique too.
Okay, so what makes me unique? It's quite a difficult question. I think that what makes me unique is probably my communication style. I think I have a real skill, a real talent for communicating quite complex subjects in a way that anybody could understand, whether they're young, whether they're old, no matter what walk of life they're from. I'm able to really communicate different subject matters in a creative and very relatable and fun way, I think. And I feel that makes me unique. I know there's many great communicators out there, but I think the way in which I communicate is very, very different to your next person. So yes, that's what I would say when it comes to something that makes me unique.
So I was thinking about what it means to be unique and what it means for me to be unique. And I guess I kind of just decided that it's just a bunch of little things that come together to make my personality, all the very different things that come together that make me unique. So for example, one thing that's unique about me is that I'm Hindu Punjabi, which means I come from an area in North Punjab, which means that my skin is brown. And quite a lot about me is brown as well. I've got brown skin, I've got brown eyes, I've got brown hair, I've even got brown glasses. And also, a lot of my family are brown as well. Speaking of my family, I've got a really big family. So I've got loads of brothers and sisters, and I've got loads of cousins all over the world, especially in Canada that I'd really like to go visit. Another thing that's unique about me is my slightly unusual love for maths, and applied maths in particular, but I guess that kind of explains why I'm doing a degree in engineering. Another thing I'd say that's unique about me is my all over the place music taste. So I like things from indie to R&B to hip hop to pop, truly all over the place. But I think that's what makes me me. And my biggest hobby, I would say, is tutoring you guys at Explore. I love being able to cause those little light bulb moments for all of you. But yeah, I think that's what makes me unique. All these random things coming together.
Now, I want you to think about what makes you unique, and I want you to write these down. Now, don't be shy. I want to hear lots and lots of ideas out there, because there are going to be many things that make you fantastic and different. So get writing.
I hope you got lots of great ideas down there. And think about all the different people who are watching this session and how many different unique ideas that we're going to have written down and collaborated on together, even though we're doing it virtually. It's so exciting to think about how different and unique everybody is who's watching this session. The next section that we're going to look at with Lydia is about culture. And cultures can be unique as well. Lydia's going to explain a little bit more, but we've been looking at about how individual people, we're now going to look about different cultures and how groups of people can be unique too.
One thing that's really great about the place that we live are the many different cultures that make up our society. And I think it's important for us to learn and understand the differences between our cultures so we can really learn to love one another because of our differences. Culture can be described as, I guess, the ideas or the norms or patterns of a specific group of people in society. And if you think about our society, as I said, there's many different cultures that make up our society. There's different groups of people that believe and practice different things, and that's what makes culture culture. And I think it's important for us to really reflect on our own cultures and think about what we love and what we're really proud of when it comes to our culture. So take myself, for example. My family are from Jamaica, and I'm very, very proud of my Jamaican culture. I've been lucky to kind of grow up with a very rich culture, from the food to the music to our carnivals. And it's really what makes us, where it's a very vibrant, very lively culture. And I think what makes me most proud to be Jamaican is just the impact that we have had across the world. Even when you think about the different music genres that we have birthed, from reggae to dancehall to ska, I think just that impact that can be seen in every corner of the world is what I'm most proud of, especially because we're such a tiny island. I always think it's so amazing that you could go to anywhere in the world and you will always find some form of Jamaican culture, whether that is music or a type of food or something like that. So that's what I'm most proud of when it comes to my culture. But I'd love to hear from Harsha and Charlotte to see what they are proud of when it comes to their own culture.
So like I said earlier, I'm Hindi Punjabi, and I'm really proud to be Punjabi. I feel really lucky and really blessed to have been born into such a beautiful and amazing culture. I think one of my favourite parts about this culture though is just how vibrant it is, and that stems from literally everything in it. So whether that be the food and just how all the flavours that go into it, especially the spices, it's really spicy food, and also just how colourful it looks on a plate, to all the lehengas and the dresses and the saris that I get to wear, and to the music, just how loud and uplifting it is, especially at weddings. It really does want to make you just get up and dance. Speaking of weddings, the weddings are probably, might be my favourite part about the culture. They're really long, but I enjoy every second of them, especially the juggle, which is particular to Punjabi culture. Another thing I love is the language itself. I think Punjabi is a really beautiful language, and I feel really lucky to be able to speak it. And yeah, I think that's why I love my culture, just how vibrant it is.
So what do I love about my culture? Well, the first thing is the food. I love food. Whether it's fish and chips on a Friday night or Sunday dinner, having a big roast dinner with all my friends and family so we can discuss what's happened that week and chat about exciting things that are coming up. Food really brings people together and we can enjoy it together. I think my absolute favourite is afternoon tea, so sandwiches and little cakes, and most importantly, scones, and drinking that with a wonderful cup of tea. Scones with clotted cream are a tradition in my culture, but they lead to debate because people argue whether you put the cream first or you put the jam first. I prefer cream before jam, but I know lots of people debate with me on that. And that's something that's part of our culture as well, having debates, whether it's in Parliament having debates, to in the playground, to at work, people being able to discuss and collaborate together to come up with new ideas and wonderful inventions. And that is part of the culture as well. And I think one of the things that I also really, really love is our rich language. There are so many words in the English language, and you can describe the same thing in so many different ways. Take something simple like an alleyway. You could call it a passage, or in some areas they would call it a snicket or a ginnel. So this really rich, fabulous use of language means that the literature in my culture is so wonderful. Um, Thinking about all the way back to Shakespeare hundreds of years ago, creating fabulous plays, all the way up to this year, where the book Look Up has just won the Waterstones Children's Book Prize. It's by Nathan Bryan, and I'd really recommend it. It's got great illustrations in it as well. But this really rich, wonderful language means that we have amazing plays and novels and stories for everybody to enjoy, which is wonderful. And then the last thing I think is about how passionate people are about supporting their sports teams. So whether it's their local football team or the national netball team, people really get behind their teams and support them. I'll give you an example here. Back in 2012 in the Olympics, this is me going to support the Great Britain and Northern Ireland team, cheering them along. And this was at the rowing lake, cheering some of the rowers who got some gold medals, which was very exciting. So I love, love, love how passionate people are in this culture, and they really want to support people, which is lovely.
So now you've heard from all of us and you have heard about our cultures and what makes us proud of where we are from. I want to give you guys just a few minutes to reflect on your own cultures. What is it that you love about your culture? What are you proud of when it comes to your culture? So if you are with someone, you can discuss your ideas with them, or if you have a pen, a piece of paper, you can write your ideas down. But we're just going to give you a few minutes now to reflect on your culture and what you love about it. So there you go. Just in a few minutes, you have learned what culture is, you've learned about different cultures, and you've had the time to reflect on your own and think about why you're proud of your culture. And it's really important for us to continue having these conversations so that we can really move in the right direction to make the change that we want to see. So what I want you guys to do is to go away, have these conversations with your friends. Tell your friends about one thing from your culture. Ask them about theirs. And we can continue learning about where each other are from and continue to love our differences.
Thank you, Lydia. So I think it's absolutely great to want to learn more about different cultures and ethnicities and heritage to really just help us understand and celebrate diversity in Britain. I myself, I love talking about my Jamaican heritage with all my friends. And I really also like bringing them into my culture to really help them also understand where my family comes from. However, I have been asked by many of my friends, Chanel, I don't want to ask you this question because I'm worried that it might cause offence or it might make you uncomfortable. What do I do? And I promise you guys, this is a completely understandable worry. No one wants to make their friends uncomfortable and no one wants to come across insensitive, do they? So what can we do? If you're one of those people who wants to learn lots and lots about different cultures, but you're too afraid of asking important questions because you don't want to cause offence. Well, I can tell you the one thing that I don't want you guys to do, and that is sit there in silence because you're too afraid to ask. Some of these questions are really important, and it's important that we talk about them and we ask them. So sitting in silence really just blocks and it stops your own development and your own growth. My biggest advice for you guys would be simply to ask. Would it be offensive if I ask you this question? Would you be uncomfortable if I said this? Simply asking allows your friend to see that you don't want to cause offence, you just want to learn. But it's important that we practice how to phrase those questions so that that's the point we're getting across, that we just want to learn. And if your friend wants to have these conversations, then that's great and we can start having them. That is amazing. If they don't, and if it is something that makes them uncomfortable, then that's absolutely fine as well. And it's important that we respect their decision. Maybe it's a topic that you can then go home and research, or you can talk about with your parents, and that way you can learn a bit more. I want you guys to understand that this whole process of trying to solve discrimination and prejudice is a learning journey. It's a learning process. And learning means making mistakes. So you guys might make mistakes along the way, but it's important that we understand that we might make mistakes and that we can learn and we can grow from them. Now, for those of you then who are on the other end of the question, like I have been many times, so you're on the side of the question that they're asking you, what do you guys do then if you're finding something offensive? And to that I say that I want you guys to remember that it's okay to say that something is making you uncomfortable. It's okay to say that someone is causing offence. I don't want you to be afraid of saying, and publicly saying as well, that something has made you feel uncomfortable, because your feelings in the situation are very, very important. Your role in this situation is also very important. Your friends might come to you to ask a lot of questions, and it's important that you're willing to also help them understand. Now, it's not your responsibility to educate them. Maybe you can point them to a website that they can look at, or you can kind of explain the best that you can so that when they get home, they can research a bit more for themselves, or they can talk to their parents about it. But I want you guys to also be willing to help those around you understand more about you and your culture. And I promise you, it's really fun to have those conversations because I love talking about it with all my friends. But whether you are on the side of the question that you're asking the question or you're being asked the question, both of you are so important and so vital to this conversation. And I want you to be willing to work with each other. Because I promise you guys, being kind, being willing to learn, and having an open mind is one of the only ways that we can together help solve this problem of discrimination and prejudice.
Thanks so much, Chanel. That was really sensible and useful advice. I'm certainly going to take it on board, so thank you. We've come to the last section of our workshop today, and the last section is just thinking about history and how history has been presented to us. And if we know everything about everything that's happened, well, I don't think we can know everything about everything that has ever happened, but we can educate ourselves to learn more about people from different cultures or maybe different ethnicities to ourselves. Sometimes what has been taught to us or what we see on television, in the news, in books, in newspapers, about what happened in history isn't always the whole story. Sometimes we only get it from one perspective. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. So this lady here is Florence Nightingale. You may have been taught about her in school. I certainly was. And we are taught that Florence Nightingale was a very important lady. She was a nurse in the Crimean War. And she was very important. She's said to be the founder of modern nursing. So when we have been celebrating and supporting our nurses recently by putting rainbows in our windows and clapping for them, this lady actually set up the future of nursing. She trained nurses and managed nurses during the war to help the soldiers. So she is very important and she should be celebrated. However, there's another lady here called Mary Steeple, who is equally important. She was also a nurse in exactly the same war at exactly the same time, but we don't know as much about her. Well, some people may, but she's not as well known as Florence Nightingale. She served the soldiers and she helped them so much that her service was described as a British hotel because she was so kind and helpful and caring for them. It was like they were being cared for in a hotel, even though they were at war. So we need to learn about everybody who's involved in a situation. Let me give you another example. So this is Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, a very important invention, an important person to learn about, an invention to learn about. But the light bulb would not have been half as successful as it is now if it wasn't this gentleman here, Lewis Latimer. Now, when the light bulb was originally designed, the filament inside it, the bit that heated up and made the light bulb come to light, was actually made of paper, so it didn't last very long. But Lewis here designed a carbon filament that lasted for a lot longer and actually made the invention and the product a success. So we should learn about everybody who's involved in a success or in supporting people, not just some of the story. So my challenge that I am leaving you with is to go away and research Lewis Latimer and Mary Steeple and then pick one of them to design a poster about, celebrating their achievements. And then we'd really love to see your work so we can see what you have created. So once you have done it, if you can get an adult to share it using the hashtag #DiscoverMoreWithExplore, then we'll be able to see your posters. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the workshop and that you've learnt lots. I certainly have. So thank you very much and see you again soon.